Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. Today we are doing the library tag, which I was very kindly tagged in by my friend Farah over at Bookstalgic. I forgot to write down in my video notes who actually created the tag, but it will be in the video description. So please go down there, and there will also be a link to Farah's video and the original if I can find it. But let's get straight into things. So I have 11 questions. One of them appears to be a bonus question, but let's go through it. So I don't know whether you guys know, you probably do if you watch the channel, but I actually am not a huge book buyer. I love libraries and going to the library and getting books from the library. And I think that libraries are incredible resources, and there's been so many books that I have got from the library and been like, oh, that wasn't great, and I'm glad I didn't pay for that, you know. But you know what, let's go into the questions. So question one is, how often do you go to the library? So I go to the library, honestly it kind of depends. So at the moment I'm reading a lot of indie published stuff, which is from Kindle Unlimited, and I'm reading the Wheel of Time, which I am purchasing each book. And I'm reading a few other more recent fantasy releases as well. Like that's why I'm kind of trying to focus on recent stuff. And a lot of those are actually quite hard to find in my local library. So a lot of the time I will buy the book, then donate it to the library or convince them to buy it. So yeah, I think that I end up going to the library probably once or twice a month. But it really depends, honestly. It depends on whether they've got the stuff I'm looking to read, depends on whether that's kind of where my reading mood is on those kind of books that you can get from the library, like more mainstream stuff. But yeah, so do you belong to more than one library system? So my library system is twinned with, so I live in Somerset in the UK, and it's twinned with the Bristol library system. So I can get books from either system. I can get them reserved and shipped to my local library, or I can just drive out if that the Bristol library system library is not that far away. And I do often tend to just be like, well, I'm just going to take the 20-minute drive, pick up the book and bring it back, rather than have to order it online, pay the reservation fee, wait for it to turn up in my local. There's a lot going on there, you know. So yeah, I am a member of those two library systems. I've also joined via the Libby app, the Welsh Library, Welsh National Library, the Aberdeenshire Library, the Oxfordshire Library, and the London Library system, all of which you can join remotely. And I've joined those to have access to their catalogues of ebooks and audiobooks. I haven't actually used them yet because I've not really been reading anything that I've needed to kind of hunt stuff down. But when it comes to mood reading over the summer, I definitely might be checking out the library system and seeing what they've got to offer. So question 3, what percent of books do you read come from the library? So last year, before I started the channel, I would say like 99%, like very, very few books I was reading were books I had bought. But since doing BookTube, where I often feel like I need to have a copy of the book to hold up for the thumbnail, or I need to have a copy of the book, you know, for discussion purposes, for going back and rereading passages. And I've also spent a lot of this year reading Wheel of Time, which I've been collecting because I know I will want to reread it. So I've been buying the books individually. So this year, the library consumption is almost zero, weirdly. I've owned a lot of books and I've read a lot of indie books via Kindle Unlimited, like Shadow of Hyperion, I've just finished last week. And so yeah, this year my library usage has been very low. I do have 2 books out from the library at the moment. I have The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman and The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. I'm planning on picking another book up. It's a sci-fi by Mike Carey called Infinity Gate. As you guys know, I've been trying to swap between fantasy and sci-fi all year. And I've just finished Shadow of Hyperion, which was my indie sci-fi series of choice. So now I'm looking for other sci-fi series, and Infinity Gate got advertised to me and it sounds great. But anyway, do you listen to, so it's question 4. Do you listen to audiobooks or get ebooks from the library, or are you hooked on Audible or Amazon? So difficult question, because I would get audio and ebooks from the library if they had the books I wanted to read. But I would say personally, I think the British library system is actually quite poor when it comes to fantasy and sci-fi, especially in the ebook and audio books. So if you're part of a UK library system that has fantastic fantasy and sci-fi selections, please do let me know. But for my local library, I mean, my local library only has magazines on the Libby app. They don't have anything else. So you have to use another app if you want to get ebooks. And every time I go on there, all the books are either obscure books that I've literally never heard of, or they're like book 6 in a series, because all the others have so many holds on them, you can't get them, which is a real shame. But I would personally, I'm personally using, kind of looking at other libraries, and like that Infinity Gate, for example, very popular book, came out from Orbit, so really big UK publisher, but not a single one of the library systems that I have a card for has an ebook version of it. So question 5, did you go to Storytime at the library as a kid? So I grew up in Bristol, which is the library system that we're connected to. It's the kind of the biggest city close to where I live now. And behind my school that I went to, which was behind my house, there was a tiny little library, and they had tons of the library events on and things like that. I think it's turned into flats now, that library. But that library, I don't remember going to story time there, but I definitely went there with my mum all the time growing up, because I was a voracious reader, and my mum obviously didn't want to buy me like 3 books a week or whatever that I was reading back then. So I did use the library a lot. But I don't think I ever went and sat and listened to someone read a story or anything. But who knows, maybe I did and I just don't remember. We haven't taken for example, my son, we haven't taken him to story time at the library or anything. But maybe he would enjoy it, so I might look into it. Have you ever borrowed a movie or video game from your library? That's question 6. The answer is no. If I'm going to borrow a movie, I'll probably end up just renting it from Amazon Prime, because that's easier and doesn't require having to do anything, physical media or anything like that. And borrowing video games, I don't know if my library system actually does offer that, unfortunately. Have you ever gotten fined for returning books late? And if so, how do you feel about that? I have gotten fined for returning books late. I got fined multiple times when I was reading a lot of comics from the library in like 2016. And the reason why I got fined was, so there was a tiny little library in my small town. It was literally maybe twice the size of this room with like 300 books or whatever, but you could get books ordered in. So I used that library loads to order loads of books in, and I would just drop off the comics and pick the new ones back up. But they then closed my local library because there was another bigger one, like 30 minutes away, like 30 minutes walk. But what happened was that then made getting to the library to do the stuff that I was doing at the library very hard, because I didn't drive then, and so I missed loads of stuff. luckily, so how do I feel about those fees? Absolutely fine, no issues. They're really reasonable, and they're there for a reason, because otherwise you might as well just buy the book, and other people should be able to read them. But anyway, so my auntie actually works for the library system, and a couple of times she has renewed my books for me without, so she'll check my library card every now and then. She'll be like, oh, I'll just renew your books for you, because she's a very nice person. And I'm not the most on it when it comes to being organised, so I do sometimes forget. And she is very nice, and she checks my account for me and does it, so that's very nice, and I don't get late fees anymore. Do you attend special events, groups, or book sales at the library? No, I don't. I probably should, but there's no, like, if there was like a fantasy and sci-fi book club in the Somerset library system, I probably would do it, but there isn't really, and I don't want to read Richard Osman thrillers every week for the rest of my life. Have you ever given or taken a book from a little free library, a book box, or a book swap? No. I donate books to my library constantly. So, I used to donate more. I used to donate basically every book that I read that I wasn't 100% sure I wanted to reread. Because if I was 100% sure I wanted to reread, I would keep it. If I wasn't 100%, I'd be like, well, I can probably rebuy it, and I would donate it. But I went to donate some at the beginning of the year, and the librarian was like, oh, just so you know, these will probably be destroyed, because unless they're like really popular, and we think that it's worth having them in the system. And ever since then, I've been a bit of a loss. I would like to donate my books to the library system, but I don't want those books to be destroyed just because they're like, oh, well, maybe people aren't that interested in Sun Eater, for example, because that's a series they don't stock, and I've had to buy the books. And I was like, oh, I could just donate them all, because I don't know whether I'll reread this series. And then, like, now I kind of don't want to, because I don't want them to be destroyed. Destroying books sucks. So I should maybe donate them to Oxfam, because they have great bookshops, and they're really good. So yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll send them to my pals at Hardy's Books or something. I don't know. Oh, that was basically the last question, because the next one was a bonus. Does your librarian know you by name? Yes, but probably because not because of me using the library loads, but because I use my local library to print shipping labels, because my local library has a printer, and I use them to print shipping labels when I sell stuff online. So the local librarian sees me all the time from doing online sales, because I've been selling a lot of my old graphic novels. And so that's probably why they know who I am, not because I'm a hugely frequent library patron, because our library system has self-service tills, so they literally never see me. So yeah, that's a fun bonus question. The last one is tag some friends. So I don't know all that many people who use the library, but I do know my friend Rebecca Nicole is a big library user. I believe she works at the library. So I will tag her. And I'm just trying to think. I think Mare might use the library. Maybe I could tag her. I'll tag Mare. I'm tagging you. If you don't use the library often enough and you don't want to do this tag, just ignore me. Just ignore me straight up. Thanks so much for watching. If you would like to follow and subscribe to my channel, that would be fantastic. Do make sure you check out Farah over at Bookstalgic. Her channel is amazing. She does loads of reading vlogs, and she does loads of vlogs out in nature. So if you like nature, as I do, I wish I had the time and energy to get out in it more, then please do watch her channel, and all the other channels that I've tagged as well. If you like this video, give it a like. Drop a comment down below if you have the answers to any of these questions, you'd like to chat to me about library usage, or you'd like to suggest some good UK library systems that I can join remotely. That would be fantastic. And I'll speak to you tomorrow.